Hey, everybody. So there are two stories, two headlines that I saw today, the day I'm recording. This is Wednesday, August 12th. And they both speak to a larger issue of where Israel's defense technology is going. That's what this video is going to be about. I'll just let the headlines do the talking. Let's get started with the first headline. Hold on. Let me pull it up. And here we go. Okay, let's get rid of that ad. Israel seeks a new way to expose drones using cell phone networks. The Defense Ministry has opened a call to technology developers for systems that can detect and locate drones operating through cellular networks, including in hostile terrain. So what's this about? So the DDR&D, this is like the research and development arm of the Defense Ministry. That's the Israeli version of DARPA, if you're an American. So they just put out this public call to the tech industry. They want a system that can detect and locate drones by tracking the cellular networks that the drones are using to communicate. Now, this was all stimulated by something that happened in the Ukraine back in June of last year, something called Operation Spiderweb. The Ukrainians smuggled like over 100 small drones into Russia in trucks, and then they drove them out to near Russian airfields, and they popped them out of the trucks and they used them to destroy strategic bomber aircraft thousands of kilometers from the Ukrainian border, something that they couldn't have done using missiles that would have been intercepted or that wouldn't have been effective. And they just smuggled these small drones in, like over 100 of them, and used them to destroy all this aircraft. And according to the analysis of the incident, those drones were flying on ordinary 4G and LTE networks. These are regular cell service networks like you have in your phone. Israel looked at all of that and said, hey, wait a second. If drones are talking to cell towers, we can hunt those signals. This is an important piece of technology to crack. So that's one headline I saw today. The other headline I saw is this one. Hold on, let me pull it up. Right here. Ondas selected to develop Israel's next generation tactical drones. This is the same day. Multi-million-dollar digital BAT program will focus on low-cost attack drones designed for rapid deployment and scalable production. Okay, so what's this? This is, again, same day, these two stories. This American company called Ondas just won an Israel Defense Ministry tender to build what they're calling a digital BAT, a new generation of cheap, mass-producible attack drones for frontline units. Okay, these are not expensive systems like we're used to weapon systems being super expensive. These are cheap, scalable attack drones. You can deploy hundreds of them at a time. The company itself said out loud that this mirrors the American drone dominance program, because everyone in the world is now building their militaries for this future with robots and drones that can be done cheaply by the thousands, and not, so that it's a very interesting reality we're heading towards, because it means that entities or countries that don't have as much money can also have some very lethal weaponry. So it kind of cuts both ways, but you have to be at the forefront of it. But that's where we are. So here's the thing. If I only showed you these two headlines, okay, interesting. We have some defense tech news, a little news update. But these aren't isolated headlines. These are two data points in a much bigger story of what the IDF has been doing for the last 3 years. And Israel has recently formally approved this as a national policy. And I'm going to show you the whole picture, and you'll see how these two stories fit in. They're not really new initiatives. They really fit into a much broader plan. So why is Israel, stepping up this way? Obviously, let me say this differently. Everyone knows that Israel is the startup nation, right? For decades, per capita, this tiny little country has produced more high-tech innovation and R&D than almost anywhere else on earth. That reputation isn't new. It's been true since the 1990s. But if you take that, the decades of being the most advanced high-tech R&D innovating country in the world, and you put it together with the last 3 years, 3 years of the most intense, most technologically complex warfare that Israel has ever fought, and on all these different fronts, Gaza, Lebanon, Iran, the Houthis, all very different fronts. Every one of those fronts became a live laboratory for exactly the kind of technology that Israeli companies are already so great at building. So you put these two things together, the innovative startup nation engineering base in Israel and 3 years of brutal real world combat. And what you get is a country that is becoming very soon the global leader in next generation defense technology. That's what's happening. That's the framing of everything I'm about to show you here. Okay, let's back up a bit and take a look at what the plan is actually all about. So this is a document. Oh, this is a report on something called the Hoshen plan. This was from February. Actually, this story, interestingly, was filed the day before the Iran war started, February 27th. Hoshen Plan 2026-2030, accelerating robotics, AI, and autonomous systems. The Israel Defense Forces High Command has approved the Hoshen multi-layer plan for 2026 to 2030, which prioritizes robotics, AI, and autonomous systems across air, sea, and land domains to build a more lethal, casualty resistance force. This strategic document calls for the integration of unmanned platforms that operate independently or alongside human troops to embed AI deeply into command, logistics, and data operations for battlefield superiority. Whoa. Did you catch all that? Okay, this is a 5-year plan, 2026 to 2030, led by the Chief of Staff, together with the head of the Planning Directorate of the Defense Ministry, Major General Zilberman. And Israel plans to become the global leader in these technologies. So like you take a look at these other headlines here. Israel advances robotic warfare plan, but take a look. Zamir, IDF to finalize new AI drone robotics unit structure. Zamir holds meeting with General Staff Forum on building IDF, expanding robotics development. Okay, these are all stories. This is from last week. That other story was from July. So this has been over the last few months a big push by the current leadership of the IDF. They want to become a global leader, and they're not. This isn't about purchasing things. This is or just even just manufacturing things. This is much bigger. It's about restructuring the army. And what he talks about here in these stories I just showed you, what it talks about, what the army's doing, is the general staff of the IDF is pushing for an autonomous systems branch in the IDF dedicated entirely to AI, drones, and robotics. Okay, this is built specifically to handle the most dangerous parts of warfare, the ones that kill soldiers most: mines, ambush threats, IEDs, and they're going to use unmanned ground systems instead of soldiers for a lot of this work. Now, there's a quote I want to show you from here. Where is it? Israeli official says Gaza conflict was first robotics war. This is a story. This is an old item from December. Look at this quote here. In this conflict, we have mobilized our entire defense ecosystem and deployed tens of thousands of autonomous systems. Tens of thousands of autonomous systems across the battlefield, from drone swarms to agile ground robotics distributed across vast areas, said Yaron Sarig, head of the Israel Ministry of Defense Directorate of Defense Research and Development. That's DDR&D. That's what it stands for. And it's he heads their AI and autonomy program. Wow. Look what he says here. Tens of thousands of autonomous systems, drone swarms. These included unmanned D9 bulldozers. The D9s are used in urban combat to to do a number of different things, demolitions, but to also, they're really at the front lines because they go in and they scrape the road where these IEDs are planted to dig them up and neutralize them, get rid of them. They do some very dangerous work. So they started using D9s that were unmanned, and unmanned armored personnel carriers, M113 armored personnel carriers doing dangerous work. Ground robots hauling ammunition and supplies through tunnels and through buildings that could have ambushes or booby traps in them. Used to require soldiers to do that. All of it operating in GPS-denied environments, right? Because a lot of these places GPS doesn't work, so they actually have these robots are smart enough to function. These machines they can function without GPS. And this was 3 years of live combat. And Israel has learned more about robotic warfare than anyone else on earth. Now, I want you to listen to a clip from Brigadier General Amir Avivi, founder of the Israel Defense and Security Forum, one of the most well-informed, one of the top minds and top most influential people in terms of defense and security policy in the country. The Israel Defense and Security Forum is led by former very high-ranking senior military officials, and it's like a policy outfit. Amir Avivi, I've talked about him before. I've interviewed him before. If you've been following what we do on this channel or on the Israel 365 channel, you've seen him. In any event, he was giving a briefing on the IDSF YouTube channel the other day, and he was asked about how Israel is sort of preparing for the next wave, during this kind of lull. Like Israel's not fighting in Iran and everything's on a low boil in Gaza and Lebanon. And how is Israel preparing? That's what he was asked about at this point in the interview. Check this out.
We're training, we're building the army, we're producing munitions around the clock. Many preparations and very high readiness. Israel announced this week that in 10 years we're going to produce unmanned aircraft fighters.
Unmanned aircraft fighters in 10 years. Think about that. Unmanned aircraft fighters.
It's a drama. It's a big issue.
It is, certainly.
We're working on building a navy in a way that will be able to deal with any threats in the Mediterranean Sea or the Red Sea, really as a strategic force. We're building, for the first time in our history, a new corps, the robotic corps. So we have the Corps of Infantry, the Corps of Armored Forces, the Corps of Combat Engineers, and now we're going to have the Corps of Robots. An army of robots.
An army of robots.
I would say that probably in 10, 20 years, it will look like Star Wars. Robots in the sky, in the land, in the sea, drones, all of it based on top AI technologies and the capabilities. So many things happening. And as we are developing all these ideas and capabilities, our lines of production are working around the clock. It's amazing how much we developed in the last 3 years, capabilities. And we built a 10-year plan, $100 billion plan, even more, and $120 billion, to really bring all the lines of production of the Israeli defense establishment to Israel and build our capabilities here.
Okay, there's a lot in that clip. Before we get to everything in that clip, which I want to discuss, let's. I would be remiss if I didn't remind you about an important event we're having this coming Sunday, a webinar at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. in Israel. Mamdani's New York City: A Warning to America. And our panel is amazing. We're so excited about this. We have the former mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani, will be joining us, as well as Shabbos Kestenbaum, the brilliant young writer and commentator who's with PragerU. Robert Spencer, the prolific author. He wrote a book about Mamdani. He's also the founder of Jihad Watch, and Rabbi Daniel Schoenbach, who's you might be familiar with him. I've interviewed him a number of times. He's been at the forefront of coalition building in New York City to push back against the disastrous policies of Zoran Mamdani. He's also a well-known therapist, and he has a YouTube channel. You should go check him out. And he's also at rabbiforamerica.com. Very important on this issue. And just today we added another panelist. She's not on the flyer yet, named Ariella. What's her last name here? Ariella. Let me get her name. Ariella Novak. Ariella Novak, she's a broadcast journalist, a writer, and a media contributor. She's a regular contributor to Fox News and to JNS, and she's been covering the Mamdani issue very closely. So we're going to have her on the panel as well. Now, if you can't make the time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, 9 p.m. in Israel, don't worry about it. You should still register, because when you register for the webinar, you will then receive an email right after the webinar airs. Everyone who registered, whether you attended or not, you will receive an email with a link to watch the full webinar. So you don't have to be available at that time to enjoy the webinar. The webinar is going to be a little more than an hour, probably about an hour and a half in total. That's 2 p.m. Eastern time, 9 p.m. in Israel. You can register by clicking the link in the description of this video, or you can go to israel365.com/Mamdani, or you can scan the QR code that is on your screen. Okay, so you don't want to miss that. This coming Sunday, August 16th, 2 p.m. Eastern time, 9 p.m. in Israel. You want to make sure that you have that all set. Now, back to what Amir Avivi said. Think about what he said. He talked about having an army of robots, robots in the sky, robots in the land, robots in the sea, drones, all based on top AI technologies. Okay, and then he talked about the amount of money that's being invested by Israel, 100 to 120 billion. Now that number is for, and he's talking about bringing all of the production capabilities of weapons to Israel and how we've ramped up our production. This is all Israel's move to become more independent in terms of defense, but also more advanced. He says it's amazing how much we've advanced in 3 years. It's amazing. Okay, this is so that 120 to 120 billion dollars. That's, if you heard recently, Prime Minister Netanyahu said that Israel is committing 350 billion shekels to become more independent in terms of weaponry and defense tech. That's that same amount of money, I imagine. Okay, now let's go back to our story here. What I want to show you next is this. Let me first pull this pull this back on screen. So this. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. I want this story. New IDF artillery robot draws global interest after first use against Hezbollah targets. This is from April. The IDF this week for the first time deployed its advanced Ro'em artillery battery against Hezbollah targets, featuring autonomous loading, precise multi-angle fire, and rapid repositioning, allowing sustained fire with reduced crew strain. So what is this all about? This is amazing. This is Elbit's Ro'em system. It's also called Sigma 155. It's an autonomous artillery system. The AI handles the loading, the aiming, the firing. It fires 8 rounds a minute, 40 kilometers of range. The crew requirement drops from 6 people to 3, and it was used in combat against Hezbollah. Elbit's now building a U.S. production line, and Germany, the Netherlands, and Hungary are interested as buyers. So that's it, so there you go. So Israel's not only going to be producing these things for itself, it's also going to be selling them. IDF's new mechanical AI robot takes 2 hours to clean tanks, which soldiers need 48 hours for. This was posted a few months ago, back in February. But look at that. That's another cool piece of technology that Israel's building. And this is not a small thing. This is serious. This is a multi-armed robot from a company called Ruby AI that does tank maintenance, cleaning and inspection, which has to be done all the time. And it limits the number of tanks that are available for use at any given moment. And it usually would take about 48 hours. And now this AI robot can do it in 2. Look at that. And this company, it says there, is working on a tunnel clearing robot next. Okay, and now I'm going to show you something from one of the pieces we already cited, but we're going to go back to it. In this piece here on the Hoshen plan, look at this. It talks about unmanned ground vehicles leading the charge. Now, what is this? This is really amazing. This is really cool. So this is the Israel Aerospace Industries is making the Rex Mk2 and the Rob Dozer. These are unmanned ground vehicles to clear IEDs and for surveillance. And they have like 300 kilometers of range. It's massive. Okay, so what are they doing? They're taking the jobs in combat that get soldiers killed the most: mine clearance, ambush routes, artillery crews. Artillery crews are very dangerous. It's a very dangerous job because when you fire a shell, you're also revealing where you fired from, and that's where retaliation comes in. But if there's no crew on your artillery setup, there's no soldiers exposed, right? Look at that. And then we have, there's another quote I want to show you here. Yeah, look at this. At the Defense Tech Conference, Israel's Brigadier General Oren Gibber, the Commander General of Mantak, the Merkava and Armored Vehicle Directorate of the Ministry of Defense, discussed new technologies for maneuvering forces. So this is talking about tanks. In his mind, the future of ground combat will include tailored robotic systems working alongside armored vehicles. For instance, instead of several main battle tanks, using two types of vehicles that work as a team with a leader vehicle and a second vehicle, we can then introduce drones as part of the weapon systems and unmanned ground vehicles as part of the overall concept. During his presentation, he showed a video of tanks approaching a position in 2025 and another video set in a hypothetical 2032 showing two vehicles with two robotic unmanned ground vehicles as wingmen, where the UGVs are sent into combat first, networked with their parent vehicles. The UGVs can then launch small drones to conduct combat. Look at that. That's amazing. These are tanks operating with unmanned ground vehicles, like as wingmen. The machines go in first. They launch smaller drones ahead of the tank. They absorb the most dangerous roles, while a human being retains control over the actual firing and the lethal decisions, right? Meaning this isn't that the machines are just fighting the war for you. There's still a person in the loop, like, operating the machinery from a distance. And that brings us back to where we started. The two stories from this week, the counter drone detection request, the digital bat contract, they're all part of this larger plan that we're talking about here. Israel is not just ramping up production of weapons, which we've heard about. It's building systems that can be more advanced than everyone else's. You have to detect everyone else's robots and drones also, because everyone's using these things. So a full spectrum robotics buildup is what Israel is working on here. Okay, it's this 5-year, $100 billion production plan. Later in that briefing, I'll just play you a couple more seconds of the Amir Avivi interview, and he said something that I thought was really. It was really great. It was right at the end. He was talking about the Israeli leadership and how they view our current position. Listen to this.
So it's huge, huge changes. Israel is getting stronger and stronger. And what I see both on the political level and also talking to the leadership of our defense establishment, everybody is feeling very, very sure of our capabilities. And
look at that. Israel's getting stronger and stronger. And it's true. Israel is getting stronger and stronger. That is happening. It's, you put all of this together. 10 years ago, you would have laughed if someone told you that Israel would have a robotic core, a core of robots by the end of the decade. But it's happening. Okay, it's been there's an approved plan. There's a budget. It's a 10-year budget, really. And they're adding this core, this robotics core to the army. So that's the story. Look, if you found this useful, you found it interesting, hit like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. I'll be watching this story as it continues to develop. I'm sure we're going to see more headlines in the future. Drop a comment. Let me know what you would like me to dig into next. I've seen some interesting suggestions here. I do read the comments. Please make suggestions. I love it when people suggest topics. It gives me it does some of the work for me. I get to know what I'm going to be researching. But so let me know what we want to hear about next, and please tell everyone else what we're doing on this channel. And thanks for watching. God bless.